How's it going, everyone? KingBlackToof here. So, let's finish this series with the top 10 most unused gold cards. And this does include leader cards, but no leader card has made it into the top 10. That's a spoiler for you. Two of them were shortlisted, and that was Dagon and Harold the Cripple. But, you know, there's other cards on the list which have more worthwhile being there, really. Harold the Cripple is a good leader card, I think, value-wise, but he gives the game away. You're trying to play Axeman, and Axeman have gone out of favour. Dagon, again, he's okay. You know, he goes in a weather deck, but there's not really any weather decks apart from Frost, and Eredin is way better there. So, unless you're playing my Foggy Boys deck for Fog, and no one's net decking that yet for some reason, Dagon just doesn't really have a place at the minute. So, again, we're taking it from several sources, Gwent databases, percentages on how many cards are put in. But as well as that, we're supplementing that with my own experiences and other people's experiences as well that I've asked to get like an idea of what's being used and what's not. Just because it's not being made in a deck on Gwent database doesn't mean people aren't playing it. I mean, if I play a crap gold, I don't make a deck on Gwent database about it. So, you know, you have to take both sources. So let's get started with our top 10 most unused gold cards in Gwent, the Witcher card game. So in my number 10th slot, we've got SAESENTHESSIS. This Squirtle Gold is a good card. I think everyone would agree, right? This is a good gold card. 10 strength value. Gets more value from the deployability, which is instant, which is very useful. It can be played in a dwarf deck, it can be played in an elf deck, or a mixture of the two. It does require a long round to get the most value, which is a negative maybe, but you know, it can easily get to 20 plus, I would say. Now, the issue with this card and why it's not seen play, I think, is because it doesn't really fit into any deck spectacularly, and a lot of decks already have a lot of auto-include golds. So depending on what Scoia'tael archetype you're playing, you've got things like Isengrim, goes in a lot of decks. You've got Yorveth, you've got Ithleen if you're playing Spell Scoia'tael and Eglaze. You've got Saskia, you've got Zoltan Chive if you're playing a dwarf deck. Maybe Zoltan Animal Tamer if you're playing a dwarf deck or something like that. So she doesn't fit into any deck spectacularly. So she's not an amazing gold, but she is a very good gold if you haven't got if you've got a spare slot basically. So she is a flex choice, but you've also got neutrals to choose from as well. So usually she just kind of gets left out. So while I think she is good, and I don't see how you could buff her without making her overpowered, she's just kind of getting left behind because there's a lot of already good golds in Squirtle which work with your whole deck theme. This doesn't work, it's just value, just strength, which is not bad, but it doesn't enhance your entire deck like other golds do. So my number 9th slot is DRAUG, and the upper part of this list can definitely be jiggered around a bit. But the most of the time you don't see this guy because he's a bit underwhelming. There's probably better choices. You're obviously going to use him to consume something big in your own graveyard. Things like Fiends, Manticores, stuff like that. But you also have to do something to your opponent's graveyard. Now if they haven't got anything in there, then you don't have to do it. You can use this guy so you only consume something from yours for better value, but he's still a little underwhelming, you know, being about 16 usually, and he is just pure value most of the time, which, like SAESENTHESSIS before, is not something that which really brings your whole deck together. Now you do get the chance to banish a bronze or silver card from the opponent's graveyard, and this can be a spell. It used to be very important when Marigold's Hailstorm was around, but not really around anymore. And sometimes you have to give them something big, like a 6 strength Drow gear. If you run artifact compression, you guarantee a 2 strength in their graveyard, which is great. But it's good to banish things like Barclay Owls, which likes to come out with Hattori, Prince Dennis, which likes to come out occasionally. But you do have to run the risk of, if they put Trollolo in their graveyard, you want to banish that, but you also don't want to give him an 11 strength Drow gear. So most of the time this guy is just underwhelming. There's better golds to maybe choose from. But because ghouls and catacans will do most of the consuming from your own graveyard, so you don't really need DRAUG to do it any further. Now, how to buff this guy? Not entirely sure. It'd be nice for the Drow gears to be placeable so they don't go into weather or they don't line up an Igni or something, which happens quite often, you'd be surprised. It'd be nice if maybe special cards didn't give any value, that you could get rid of an artifact compression and they didn't get a Drow gear at all for that, possibly, because then you'd be able to do it against, you know, some pretty good things later on. I think that's probably the best thing you could do with him. Just a slight buff to special cards don't give Drow gears. So next on the list, we've got Priscilla. This Northern Realms gold has a maximum value of 18. So if she fulfills all her ticks, she's worth 18 value. Now, the issue with that is, and I think you'll see it in Gwent as a whole, as well as in this particular list of unused golds, is that anything that takes time is generally bad because it runs the risk of losing value. You can stop her. You can stop her with a lock. You can stop her by killing her. Now, it would take 9 damage to kill her. Eskel goes through armor and just kills it if it's not boosted, which that'll kill her. You also got Madman Lugos, Leo Bonhart, a Swordmaster would probably be quite easy way of doing it. And so there's quite a few ways of killing her, so the risk is basically the reason. Now, I think she is a good card, apart from the fact that she runs the risk of dying or getting locked. Because ask yourself the question, would you take her if she was immune to damage until her counter reaches 0? I think you might do, you know, might be good. The counters don't go down if there's no units on the board, so you could place her down and then place units later. Might be a bit crazy that. There might be some exploitable thing, place her down and play loads of spells so you can't kill her. You know, easier way would be to raise the armor, but is that going to solve the issue? I don't know. Also, her boosting is random, so from my experience when I used to play her in the previous patch, she would sometimes not boost the unit I wanted it to boost, or sometimes she would boost a unit that would set something up for Igni or Scorch, because it would level things. So, you know, there's a couple of issues with her. Most importantly is the inherent risk of stopping her before you've got the value. And with cards like John Natalis into Commander's Horn and things like that, there's just not a reason to run the risk most of the time. There's no synergies with Priscilla. Like, if you're running the Ale of Ancestors, which is comparatively similar to Priscilla, there's synergies with that, with the Mahaka Marauders. But Priscilla has no synergy. It's just going to be a base 18 value. Nothing gets buffed by being buffed in Northern Realms. So surprisingly enough, I am putting Lambert, this neutral gold, onto the list. Now, he did see play in one of the recent Gwent tournaments, and to quite good effect as far as I recall, but we never saw him before that point, and I haven't seen him since. And a lot of people in the comments will say, oh, I'm playing Lambert and he's amazing, but I haven't seen him. Where are you? And I don't think anyone else has seen him. And also on Gwent database, he's like 0 point something %, so no one's making decks and putting Lambert in. Lambert is not a core card, core gold card like Ceres might be, so that's probably the reason why Gwent database is skewed in that way. But I don't think anyone's playing him even after that particular point. And he is a good gold card. He's got a maximum value of 28, which is huge. But the issue with Lambert is that he's so easy to lose value, and you're pretty much almost guaranteed to do so. So his 7 strength damages the enemy by 5, that's 12, and he damages up to 4 copies of it on its side by 4. You actually need 5 of the same unit on its side in order to get this, which is very rarely going to happen. Like, unless an operator or a summoning circle as well, both of them in fact, you're never really going to get 5 copies of the same card. You could get like Harpy eggs, or you could get Arrakis hatchlings and stuff. I'm not actually even sure if Arrakis and Arrakis hatchlings are the same thing. But it's very rare you get 5 copies of the same card. So you are losing 4 value, possibly 8 value there just straight off the bat. So most of the time, this guy will be about 16, maybe 20, which is still good. Don't get me wrong, it's still good. But I think CD Projekt Red made this card to be, you know, it's high ceiling, but most of the time average. And 16 to 20 is still pretty good though. But I think he's supposed to be played against a Swarm deck. But if that's the case, you're going to lose a lot of value from this 5 damage you're doing and 4 damage you're doing to other things. So most things are 3 in swarms, you know, like poor infantry. And I don't think poor infantry and left flanking and right flanking count as the same card. And, you know, so I think you'll lose value all over the board with this card. So if you wanted to buff him, I think there's a couple of ways that people would want this to be the case. I'm not so sure that he needs buffing. But most people will probably say up the damage on the copies to 5, but reduce the amount of copies to 3, so that you're less likely to lose value. And if they've got more than 4 copies, then you only hit, you know, you don't hit so many, but you do more damage to the ones you do hit. Or they could say hit more copies but lower the damage, so you're less likely to lose it, but it's great against swarm decks, that type of thing. There you go. So next on the list is Old SPEARTIP Asleep. So this is a 5 strength gold for monsters, and he has 5 armor. So he used to be really powerful. You used to see him all of the time. He used to be a silver first off, and he did a lot of like lacerate value, buffed your entire row. It was absolutely absurd. Got changed to gold, still pretty good though. Still did like whole row damage, but he's got nerfed again. He does limited damage now, and with the introduction of killing golds very easily and locking them. He's a culprit of this. He's a victim of the gold immune change, really. He's 5 strength, 5 armor, so you can kill him. 10 strength value damage, which is Leo Bonhart again, Madman Lugos again, Eskel, a Swordmaster. Okay. Maybe Howard the Cripple could kill him off pretty easily. He's only got 5 value. You'd have to hit him 3 times because he goes for armor. But yeah, he also does limited damage when he transforms into a wake form. He hits 5 enemies for 2, which is 10 value. This has the potential of, with 1 transform, to be worth 22 value, which is nice. But it's just the risk again. It comes back. I think this list is going to be quite boring because a lot of the things are going to be about, oh, this can now be killed, so it's not very good. But yeah, I mean, I think it's the risk. You know, what archetype does he fall into? He might fall into like Drowner Weather archetype, so you can move a lot of units to a row and then lacerate an Old SPEARTIP. But the risk is probably not there. If you're going for like doing a lot of value on a row, just go for a lacerate. You'll do almost the value that he will be for a bronze. So yeah, it's just a bit of a risk. You don't see him much anymore, which is unfortunate. He's got one of the better premiums in his wake form, I think. Really good. So next on the list, we've got TYENNEFER the Conjurer. So any of you out there that are Team TYENNEFER, sorry to say, this card is not good. We haven't saw her in a long time, and a classic victim of the gold immunity change. So she used to have a bit of armor when she got changed in the gold immunity, but for some reason they took it off. So she's 7 strength, no armor. That's a simple Alzor, a very easy Swordmaster, a Drowner into Weather, which won't kill it, but will take it down very low. She's not going to stay alive for very long at all. She can also be locked. Okay, so the thing with TYENNEFER the Conjurer is she requires such a long round to really get the going, to get the oomph, to really see the damage there. She needs a long round. She won't survive. In the current game, there's a lot of buffing going on, a lot of staggering of units. So she's just really going to struggle. You're going to be constantly fighting to level as well as protecting her, and you probably won't be able to do it. She also has a revenge tag rather than death wish, which means the opponent has to kill her in order for the damage all the highest enemies by 2 to trigger. This is not usually an issue, but it means that, you can't blood curdling roar or something like that at the end of the game to get some more damage going. She's not going to damage carry over when she goes to the graveyard. It's not a huge deal, but it is a weird change. She's just not good. She needs something, probably protection usually. So armor is the easiest way, but it's not really going to solve the issue, is it? I've been saying that for a couple of these things now. Armor, protect them. But again, what armor would you give her? You'd probably give it, you'd probably say something like 3 or 4, wouldn't you? But that's not going to protect her against an 11 strength sword master, a Madman Lugos onto an 11 strength skirmisher. Not going to stop you from Leo Bonhart onto a Nilfgaardian knight or Geralt. So it's not really going to help, and you're not going to give her 10 armor, are you? 10 armor would work, but you're not going to do it. Giving her armor, it's normally 3 or 4, and it's not really going to change the issue that she's not going to survive long enough, or she's not going to stagger and get the value. It's probably most effective against Northern rounds. They have a lot of similar strength units. But, you know, people are smart now. They can avoid it. I guess one of the more interesting things that just comes to my head on how to buff her would be if she damages 1 unit, damage it by 2 or 3. If she damages 2 units, damage them by like 2 or something. And then if she damages more than 2 units, damage them by 1. So she can help herself to level. Might be too strong. But with the risk she is at the minute, it's still probably not enough. I don't know. You can probably agree with that, right? She needs help. If you thought Team Yennefer had it bad, Team Triss have it just as bad, I'm sorry to say. They're in pretty much the same area. So I could have switched these around. I think, you know, Triss Butterfly Spell... we did see them occasionally, but we saw, you know, both of them pretty much. She's basically exactly the same boat as Team Yennefer. So she's 6 strength gold, neutral, and she boosts all the lowest allies by 1. Now, this is 6 instead of 7, so she is easily killed. Absolutely, no armor on this lady. So this is as simple as a drown her into frost. She's dead. You've got... you know, an easy swordmaster, just 1 Quen swordmaster. This is not even Madman Lugos or Leo Bonhart. You don't need those for this. This is as simple as an Imperial Enforcer doing a bit of damage, and you'll kill this lady off. She's very easy to kill. Again, she's got a revenge, so you can't trigger it. The opponent has to do that. She's very difficult to play, I think, because you'll kind of be stopping your own... A lot of the time, you do stop your own Triss Butterfly, like... You try and use Yennefer, you'll place down a 1 strength this, you'll play a this, and this. She's difficult to use, and again, she requires a very long round. We did see her a while back, before the gold weather immunity kicked in, where she was boosting all the foglets and all the woodland spirit wolves and stuff, and she was really good, but again, another victim of weather immunity. Now again, I think the way to buff her is not as simple as just giving her armor. That'll just won't help really. It'll still be Madman Lugos, Leo Bonhart, Swordmasters, Eskel, that type of thing. But even at the minute, she's not even that. She's just Drowner. But I think it'll be very interesting and not so overpowered in this one, where it's if you boost 1 ally, you boost them by 3. If it's 2, you boost each of them by 2. If you boost more than that, you boost them by 1. So it helps her quickly sort of get up to being where she's supposed to be. Because the risk is quite high on this, very high. So she needs something more than just armor, I think. So we're into the top 3 now, and CIRI has secured the 3rd place spot. This neutral gold. We haven't saw her in a long time. We used to see her a lot a while back, but it was a long time ago. I think, first of all, the buff to all the bronzes, so all bronzes are slightly higher, has made this card worse. We've got a lot more golds introduced, so they're really strong, and she's become sort of like stayed where she is. And also the gold immunity change means she's vulnerable to death and locking. So you need 8 damage to kill her. This again is Swordmasters, Madman Lugos, Leo Bonhart, and probably some other things, reasonably. But also, if like you won round 1 and place CIRI in round 2 to bleed them a little bit, I think a lot of people could destroy this card and also gain value. So like Swordmaster again would prevent the card advantage by killing her, as well as, you know, be in the lead. So it's a bad thing to do. And not to mention, anyone, even if you're not Squirtle or have access to those golds, could play a silver locker and be simultaneously ahead in strength and prevent the card advantage. So if CIRI's on the board, you could play something like Margarita, lock the card and be ahead in strength. You could play Morvood, lock the card, which also damages it, and be ahead in strength. You could play Orcs, which is 5 strength, lock her, damage her for 1, and be ahead. So she's very easily stopped now, and you run the risk of getting her in round 3, which is not something you want. So really, this card is too vulnerable and also runs a little bit of a risk. So not good now. I think to buffer, I don't know if I want to see her too much. That's my own personal opinion. But to buffer, you'd probably have to give her more armor again, which is a horrible thing to think of. Maybe you could raise her base strength, but make it so when she returns to your hand like Okvist, she transforms into a silver card and lowers the value or something like that, you know? You could do some fancy testing around that type of stuff. Make her stronger when you first play her, and then reduce it when she gets smaller, when she returns to your hand. But other than that, it's difficult to say. I don't want her to be overpowered, so you've got to make small changes. So in our second place, we have Shiru. This Scoia'tael Gold has an issue with the gold immunity change. Now, because golds can die and get damaged and get scorched, when you give a scorch to yourself, he can die by it if you're not careful. So it sort of doesn't quite work as a card anymore. Like, he used to be played in round 3. You'd place Shiru, you'd place gold, you'd place gold, you'd place gold, loads of golds, all immune, and then you scorch the opponent's card as they tried to beat your strength, which was really powerful. But now he's going to have to be used in any old round, and you know, most of the things I think of are Imperial Brigades and stuff like that. It's not difficult to get over 10 strength and scorch something, but you know, do you really want that many scorch? The opponent knows you've got a scorch if you play Shiru, which is one of the issues as well. Maybe if he had a choice, I think that'd be the best thing for him. Make it so that he gives you the choice between a scorch, gives you the choice between another special, and gives you a choice between a third special or something like that. So you get a choice of 3 specials, and then the opponent never quite knows what you've got, which would be really kind of cool, I think. Because it's not difficult to see the opponent getting over 10. But yeah, the minute it's not taken because it just doesn't kind of work at the minute. I really like the idea of multiple special cards you could choose from, so you don't know what the opponent's chosen. But yeah, so he's a card that's not seen very much anymore. He hasn't been seen in a long time due to him being able to be killed. And so finally, we've got our honourable mentions. Now, there's quite a lot of honourable mentions here. I just want to briefly talk about some before I go on to our number 1 spot. So my first honourable mention in this particular list goes to Gwent. In Gwent database, he's listed as 0 point something %. But the thing is, no one builds decks around this guy very much. But people do meme with him. They do play him as a meme occasionally. I think a lot of people, you know, when they're building meme decks, will throw him in. And everyone's always requesting him. So he is sore occasionally because he floats around as a meme. I mean, the issue with him is that he's got no synergies and the risk is way too high usually. The next honourable mention is KAMBI. A lot of people try and use KAMBI. I haven't seen him in ages, and he's listed quite low on Gwent database as well. I think when you see KAMBI decks, it is just, I'm going to build a KAMBI deck and then start building one. They don't really go onto Gwent database most of the time. But he is sore. I mean, people definitely do use him. There's always clips on Reddit and stuff where Hemdall is played and KAMBI is played. So he obviously shows his face, so he's not really on the list, but you know, people try, and I'm glad they do. The next is ILETHO of GULET. He's a reasonable card. I mean, he's good substitute for Geralt in spotter decks, and he's got good synergy with D-Bomb and Mushrooms and Mandrake when you use it on the opponent's side of the board. But you don't see him very much, really don't, and we haven't saw him in a long time before that. I'm surprised I don't see him more, but I guess there's a lot of Nilfgaard golds which are really good golds. Yeah, so he's an honourable mention. Unfortunately, the Bloody Baron gets an honourable mention because he used to be saw quite a lot. And you may see someone occasionally try, but really he's kind of not work. It doesn't work anymore. He needs buffing. Maybe you boost by 1 even if he's in your hand or something like that, you know. It's just, They need to make him easier to use, I think, rather than anything else. So Bloody Baron gets an honorable mention because of the whole gold immunity has changed the way that this guy can work. You can't save him for round 3 and is immune. A Mushroom or a Mandrake will just deal with him really quickly. Maybe he should strengthen, I don't know. So my number 1 spot goes to IVARJORN. Now, a lot of people will probably guess this, and he is a terrible card, and nobody takes him for good reason. He's a 10 strength gold, and he has a terrible ability. Damage a unit by 2. If it was already damaged, destroy it instead. Now, why did they choose damage a unit by 2? Why 2? I mean, it could have been damage a unit by 5 or 6. You know, so he's 16 or something. Like, Menno is 4. He is a worse version of Eskel and Menno. Damage a unit by 2? Because they have to be damaged in order for you to destroy them. Now, that's not necessarily always difficult. There's a lot of buffs going on. But it means that you're restricted by someone's base strength. And in any deck other than Skellige, that is stupidly low. That means you're going to get rid of something most likely going to be a 8 or 10 strength card. Which is not bad. I mean, it's just the requirement is quite high. Menno can get rid of something which is, you know, 20 strength or like 30 strength or something crazy, because all he has to do is Infiltrator at first, which has tons and tons of synergies. It's just not worth it in a buff meta, and damaging it by 2. Like, it's just weird. Like, that's so shitty. And you know, so you're restricted by base strength, and yeah, it's just not good. He needs to be completely changed, I think, this card. I looked at what his lore is, what his kind of background is, and all it said he's a character in the Witcher Gwent Arena or whatever it's called, the Witcher Arena game, Battle Arena. There's no information whatsoever. So they need to change him completely, and the reason for that is that there's no reason for IVARJORN to exist in the way that he does. Like, if you're going for removal, you've got Coral. If you want more removal, you've got Madman Lugos. There's no reason for bad removal like IVARJORN. There's no reason for him to be there. He needs to be synergistic with something, or, you know, Axeman, synergy with Axeman somehow. You know. But Olaf the Bear's not here. Maybe you could tag team him with that again, like he used to in the Kill the Server stress test and stuff. But like, there's no information about him, like I mentioned, so you can do what you want with him. Be free. Just make sure he's good, has some sort of synergies, and everyone's happy. And thank you for watching this top 10 list. I've been KingBlackToof. Thank you for watching. Take care.